Yeah. There's no crying here. Happy Monday, everyone. Today is Veterans Day, huh? It's the day Tim Waltz recalls the terrifying combat he witnessed while watching Saving Private Ryan.
That's a good one.
It was a good one. I just it up. But because it's a federal holiday, a lot of stuff is closed, including banks, the post office, and Bill Clinton's pants. There was a big Veterans Day parade in New York City today. It was a mix of 20,000 marchers, 25 floats, and a few dozen Kenyans from last week's marathon. They always win. On Wednesday, President Biden will host Donald Trump at the White House for a traditional post-election meeting. I don't want to tell Trump what to do, but if I were him, bring a few bottles of Febreze. While walking on the beach Sunday, President Biden stumbled multiple times. I guess that's what happens when you try to scatter your own remains. Poor taste. Leonardo DiCaprio turns 50 today, huh? Yeah. To celebrate, he's taking his girlfriend to get her learner's permit. A Yale psychiatry fellow told MSNBC it's okay to cancel Thanksgiving plans with relatives who voted for Trump. Also endorsing the effort, Trump voters. Yeah. Nick Bosa, is that his name, of the 49ers, was fined by the NFL for pointing to his MAGA hat during a broadcast. The fine will go toward promoting LGBTQ sports, also known as soccer. Trump has named former ICE Director Tom Homan as his border czar. And to prove that he's not messing around, Homan asked Melania for her paperwork. All right. That was fun. So it's postmortems galore, watching the media point fingers at everyone but themselves. But really, this is just a mass misdirection in an effort to save what's left of their credibility. And like true psychopaths, the media lacks the empathy to realize that we know they're lying. And we knew it's been them all along. So what you're seeing now is a ruse. See, the media is like the creep who gets rid of the spouse, but then volunteers to lead the search party. Except in this case, it was a disappearance of truth. And now they're volunteering to search for it, telling us where to look and actually expecting us to include them, even though they're metaphorically covered in blood and Brian Stelter's actually covered in tomato sauce. But they're terrified, not just of Trump, but of losing their influence. So now they're starting to sound like us.
Interesting message for Democrats. Maureen Dowd's piece for the New York Times entitled Democrats and the Case of Mistaken Identity Politics. Some Democrats are finally waking up and realizing that woke is broke. Democratic insiders thought people would vote for Kamala Harris even if they didn't like her to get rid of Trump. But more people ended up voting for Trump, even though many didn't like him because they liked the Democratic Party less.
Now remember, that's the same duo who blamed Kamala's loss on racist Black and Hispanic men. So maybe they finally ran out of people to scapegoat, and the only targets left are in the mirror, except they keep breaking those. Listen to Jen Psaki dishing out advice.
Look, I happen to believe that Donald Trump is a major threat to our democracy. Too many people either didn't buy it and didn't show up, or were willing to price in the risk because other issues were more important to them. And the answer to that failure isn't to say fascism doesn't matter. It does. Or to say everyone who didn't vote for Harris is to blame for not hearing or understanding the threat. It's for candidates to rethink how they prioritize what they talk about moving forward. It's to rethink how they engage moving forward. Do that Joe Rogan podcast, by the way.
Little late. Jen, I'd say quit while you're ahead, but you're so far behind you need to circle back to wipe your own butt. Dems all over are sounding the alarm on what Trump will do. Geraldo suggests Trump could demand a third term. Thankfully, he made this prediction while wearing a shirt. Don't worry, Geraldo. If Trump takes a third term, you'll be too old to know what a president is. Many predict Trump will break the law or violate the Constitution. Sorry, he's not going to put The View in an internment camp. Although they could use the exercise. But they assume Republicans would go along with law breaking, like using the levers of government to target political opponents. In other words, they assume Republicans are just like them, but they're not. And it shows that the media and the Dems don't know any actual Republicans. The closest they've come is smelling one of Liz Cheney's farts in the green room. For Republicans, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, that comes first. If Trump tries to unconstitutionally take away anyone's rights, we'll be first in line to stop it. We always are. After all, isn't Trump's main promise that he's going to actually enforce the damn law, as in have a border, remove criminal gangs, restore order to the cities? Show me this great respect for the law that the Dems have. Was it during the 2020 Summer of Love when Kamala helped bail out the rioters? And Gwen Waltz kept her windows open because she loves the smell of burning Firestone radials in the morning? What about a president that's incapacitated? Isn't a president who keeps falling down supposed to step down? This guy was responsible for more spills than a waitress with Tourette's. And yet no 25th Amendment or forced resignation. A move, by the way, that prevented the first black woman from becoming president. And yet they accuse you of bigotry because you didn't vote for Harris. Now, never mind that Trump increased his numbers with blacks, Hispanics, and yes, even suburban white women. Turns out Mr. Hitler himself, Mr. Racist, Mr. Misogynist, is more about inclusion than the Democrats themselves. That must be a real kick in the nuts to this woman. And these accusations of racism are coming from people who said nothing when the Democratic Party itself rejected Kamala. Kamala's 2020 primary for president made the Hindenburg look like SpaceX. But we're the racist ones? No, fact is, Kamala's about as popular with both parties as crabs are at a nudist colony. I mean, she had to appear with Liz Cheney so she wouldn't be the least popular person on stage. But it's so much easier just to call us Nazis. It's certainly easier than reporting on a candidate who can't answer a question without cackling like a hyena who's twirling on the wrong end of an electric toothbrush. But it was them who didn't want her, or they could have had her. I mean, she could have been president, used the 25th Amendment. That would have been lawful, actually. So why didn't they do that? Was it racism? Was it misogyny? Because, you know, they can still do it.
Joe Biden has been a phenomenal president. He's lived up to so many of the promises he's made. There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days, make Kamala Harris the president of the United States.
Whoa. See, crazy people can be right. If they truly believe Kamala was denied the presidency because of racism and sexism, Biden can resign right now and she can be president for 2.5 months. So what are they waiting for? They can make history or herstory. So why haven't they done it? Who are the Nazis now? Let's welcome tonight's guest. This Hawaiian has Democrats crying. Trump transition team co-chair Tulsi Gabbard. The stuff he writes keeps Newsom up at night. Founder of Public News on X and Substack, Michael Schellenberger. His one-liners upset liberal whiners, comedian Dave Landau. And she's expectant and needs disinfectant. New York Times bestselling author, Fox News contributor, Kat Timm. Tulsi, I've watched you change, and I don't think you've changed that much. I actually think the world has changed.
Very much.
But I think you noticed what I'm talking about, that it wasn't necessarily left versus right. It was about this larger environment of dishonesty.
Yes.
And that it was like pitting people against each other rather than just like listening to the truth. What role are you going to play in this fight?
That's a nice segue there.
Yes, that was no segue at all.
Greg. No, it was really incredible. As you know, Bobby Kennedy and I were out on the campaign trail for the last several months, and it was amazing to see how many people were coming together because they were hungry for the truth and common sense leadership that was focused on how do we actually solve the very real problems that people in this country are struggling with every single day. At almost every one of our events, I would ask the crowd, raise your hand if you're a Democrat or you're a former Democrat. And in crowds of thousands of people, there were always somewhere between like 35 to 45% of the crowd would raise their hands. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. At the last event that we did, it was in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And this was just a few days before Election Day. And it was they raised their hands, almost half of them raised their hands. And the cool thing was, people in the crowd started looking around, and all like 3,000 people stood up and started clapping and just showing them kindness and really symbolizing we are all Americans who love our country, who cherish peace and freedom. And I think that's the result that we saw on election night, was Americans coming together for our country.
So, to conclude, Secretary of Defense.
President Trump is making some decisions.
Yes. Michael, always good to have you. You haven't been here in a while. You were one of the very first people to raise the alarm on the issues in California, the effects of wokeism, especially in the drug area, what it did to places like Portland and Oakland. How do you feel about this outcome and the fact that it doesn't feel like an ideological victory at all? It just feels like a voice or something.
Like a breath of fresh air. I mean, I felt the next day I literally breathed more easily. You know, Justine Bateman from Family Ties tweeted that she was decompressing from 4 years of walking on eggshells. I think a lot of us that came from the left just lived under this and raised concerns around things like censorship or the FBI and CIA interfering in the 2020 elections, or maybe not blocking the puberty of children or operating on them if they might not be sure of who they are. We were called, just like conservatives, fascists and racist and phobic, raising very legitimate questions. I mean, it really culminates this year where we see this attempt to basically incarcerate President-elect Donald Trump, while at the same time accusing the Republicans of being the fascists and wanting to undermine democracy. So I think for a lot of us, those of us that have had this experience, I mean, the conservatives were beat up for so long, and now I'm very sympathetic. A lot of us lost friends, lost communities over this transition. So it feels like a hard reset and a necessary one for the country.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about it in the next block. I do think there's a way to get people back together, but it has a lot to do with ego. There's a lot of bruised, damaged egos out there. Speaking of Dave.
Yes.
Yes. How have you been able to handle this week? You were in where? Were you in Detroit?
I was in Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to people. I was amazed that Michigan turned red. And then meeting with people in Detroit, I'm surprised that county didn't, but I think it was close to 50-50. But it's been an exciting week. I mean, you're watching them now try to explain their strategy, which is don't do the #1 podcast in the country. And it's like, what would they talk about? It's like, well, Joe does jiu-jitsu, and that involves being on your back, and that's how Kamala got this far in the first place.
She deserves that joke. She lied to us.
And also the idea that she's just going to step in real quick for Biden is the saddest participation trophy I've ever seen.
Shouldn't she? Yeah. Shouldn't he resign though? We're racist for not voting. He's racist for not stepping aside.
I don't know who's president. I don't think anybody does.
Yes, it's the best. It's the best. Clearly, we didn't need one, Kat. Kat, are you still riding? You were traveling this weekend. How were your audiences? Because personally, I'm still high. It's a natural high, but I'm very high.
Very happy.
Yes.
Yes, very excited, very, very happy. Would it be funny? So, by the way, I'm not sure that Joe Biden even voted for Kamala.
Yeah.
To be honest. He didn't want to step down, okay?
Yeah.
So, but would it be funny for him to step down for one day?
Yes.
Obviously, he's not qualified. He shouldn't be I get it. We don't have a president. Everyone who says that is correct. But how would that be? Because it'd be like giving someone something and then she has to. I'm just giving him a tip if he wants to play any mind games. Because she would have to then act really grateful and like, what kind of speech would you give if you're president for a day? That sounds like a movie from the 90s starring Macaulay Culkin.
Yes.
But she'd have to take it seriously.
And she would technically be president, so she'd be she'd be the 46th, though.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's almost like people become president when, like, she was probably acting president when Joe Biden was like out.
He should make it a big deal.
Yeah.
Have her be president for one day, and I want to hear what she says about it.
Yes.
Just so I have stuff to talk about in the chat.
Yes. All right, we must move on.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.